They finally caught the thief and were able to return the painting to the museum, where it's viewed by over 50,000 people every single day. So, without the misfortune of its disappearance, it wouldn't have the fame that it does today. Simon's story is very similar. Simon lived in northern Africa, and he decided to walk all the way to Jerusalem for the Passover feast. But with a journey that long, it would have been impossible for him to know exactly when he would arrive. An annoying rock stuck in his sandal or a stop for an extra snack would have meant a later arrival. And yet, right when he arrived in Jerusalem, he ran into a large procession, a large parade of people with loud yelling and screaming and crying and wailing. So he curiously made his way to the front of the crowd, and that's when he saw Jesus collapse under the weight of a cross. Jesus was beaten and bruised and covered from head to toe in his own blood. He didn't have the physical strength to keep going, to finish the plan of salvation. As Simon stood there looking at Jesus' body, thinking about how he had been hesitant to follow Jesus, suddenly a Roman soldier grabbed him from the crowd and forced him into the street and told him to carry the cross. Simon now had to share in the humiliation of a condemned criminal. People made fun of him, called him names, laughed at him, spat on him. All this just because of some bad luck, just because he got there at the wrong time. But through Simon, Christ's victory was assured. Jesus was sharing in his triumph of the cross. As Simon carried the weight of the cross, Jesus walked beside him, carrying the weight of the world. The soldier who took Simon and forced him to carry the cross meant to do him no favor, meant to ruin his day. But through the bad luck of having to carry the cross, Simon received the greatest honor of his life. Just as the Mona Lisa was stolen from the museum and left uncared for in a dusty old box, it can seem like bad luck in our life steals us away from our comfort and our normal routine and leaves us uncared for and broken and hurt. But just as the Mona Lisa was returned to the museum and that misfortune turned into its fame, God can use our pain and our brokenness to open our eyes to the care Christ has for you. Just as Simon's story shows, God doesn't cause your pain. God doesn't want you to be in pain, but he can use that pain to bring about eternal goodness in your life. So I want you to remember this short phrase: your cross leads to Christ. Just remember it. Your cross leads to Christ. Your pain leads to Christ. Your suffering leads to Christ. The burden that you carry through life leads to Christ. Just as the situation was out of Simon's control, there are many situations in our life that are out of our control, such as maybe a family member or a loved one dies. You can't control that. Your own health, you can't really control if you get sick. You can't really control the state of the world you live in. But this can make you feel like you're forced to carry a cross that you didn't ask for. But God walks with you as you carry that cross. God takes your cross and leads you to Christ. Because ultimately, God is in control.
Amen.
Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good, for those who love God and for those who are called according to his purpose."
Amen.